Yo, Scyfe like the knife, and I've got a Bronze Gekko student who kept making fundamental mistakes and wondering why he's hard stuck. Let's jump into it. This may be polarizing, but for pistol rounds, I prefer and recommend to play B first. Hear me out. Typically, when it's the pistol round, players are attacking a site together are not necessarily defaulted. So we need a way to easily identify what site they're going to hit, and Gekko's flash does exactly that. Immediately, I'll posture myself like this, wait 1 or 2 seconds, then throw my flash out to the sky, making sure I'm facing directly up so it lands back on me. But the main goal of the flash is to gather info early and safely. So by playing A, your way of finding out which side they're going to hit is made that much harder, and more times than not, you have to wait for your team to make contact or for the enemy to make noise in main. So keep that in mind. It doesn't matter the map, look to identify ways to get instant info early. For instance, here on Ascent you can flash like this on B or A. And here's an in-game example against Radiance working perfectly.
Run, little man. Dizzy's up. Someone's there.
Immediately there's a big issue, and that's looking to take on multiple enemies as a solo player. If your goal is to win, look to set up yourself or your teammates up for success. You find alone like this against multiple enemies is making life much harder for you, especially when you don't have an escape ability like a chamber, Rainer, dismiss, or a jet dash. And against better opponents you would have been easily killed, especially when you're facing into multiple enemies. And to reinforce the point even more, the movement graph indicated you were moving and shooting, making it even more unlikely to get a kill. Look to set up your teammate as a Gekko, for example playing to withdraw with jet in main and flashing when you hear noises so the jet can peek off it. This also works with other initiated and flashed agents such as Breach, Sky, and Phoenix.
Up and away.
Personally, I would have played this differently. The flash is fine as it clears anyone in this area. However, why take that risk? There's a chance an enemy could be hiding from that flash, so your next thought process should be, how do I prevent them from peeking so I can safely get this orb? And that's the use of Wingman. You need to understand that your utility is there for a reason and try to use it to your advantage. By sending him down here, it in a way prevents them from peeking, especially if they're trying to conceal their identity. But you took the gamble and paid the price. But even with all that, had you had your crosshair already preempt instead of wherever this is? Not sure if you're expecting a new zombie DLC, but the situation could have been easily salvaged by having your crosshair already in this area. Keep that in mind, whenever you're getting an orb or picking up your Gekko abilities, have your crosshair ready so that if they peek, you don't have to move your crosshair to them like how our Gekko student did.
Over there.
Dizzy's up top.
The way he threw the flash was fantastic, high up, but there's a huge red flag, and that's how you position inside the smoke. The enemies managed to get a team to rotate to A, allowing them to take control of B, but you're not aware of their position, which is why you flash to gain info. But if an enemy pushes that smoke, which can be likely, especially when it's a 3 versus 5 and they need to make something happen, you're completely dead. In fact, you won't even see it coming. Before you make a play or do something, just think to yourself, am I exposed when I do this, and how can I mitigate it?
Dizzy's up top. Someone's there.
Joke's over. You're dead.
Immediately I noticed something, but I'll let you lot find out first.
30 seconds left. Spike planted. One enemy remaining.
Cuate.
If you haven't figured out, it is poor, and I mean poor gunfight hygiene. Let's rewind a tad bit. You spot the omen going heaven, but instead of stopping then shooting, you just kept running and shooting with the graph spiking only blue, and only blue indicates that you were just moving. Then it took a whole second for you to even react to the Phoenix on your screen, followed by a body spray. And against a decent player, you would have been killed as they'd be aiming for your head whilst you'd be shooting for the body. And the reason why the Phoenix dies so quickly is because you had the help of your deadlock. However, sometimes it can be easier to shoot for the body when you're caught off guard. A good usage of the Wingman to stun the Phoenix has ulted, which subsequently leads to the Sage getting stunned, but it's the position of your crosshair when moving that's off-putting. Several instances where that crosshair is in a useless position. If the omen that was in heaven decided to peek to help the Sage, you'd have to flick and hope. Let me try to recreate the same scenario and show you what you should be doing, how your crosshair should be positioned. I'm pushing the exact same direction, but my crosshair for the most part is in a position whereby if an enemy peeks like this, they're peeking into my crosshair. When you went to trade your deadlock, you'd even implement the basic fundamentals such as having your crosshair at head level, stopping before shooting, and making sure you aim for the head. Your initial shot was completely off because you were moving and shooting. Had you implemented the correct principles, it'd look a lot more like this. I'm approaching the area with my crosshair, ready identifying the position of the sage, taking the necessary time to aim for the head and bursting. Of course, it's a lot quicker in real time, but this is just more of a demonstration to show you what you should be doing. And the Omen engagement was a carbon copy in that your crosshair was in nowhere land, you didn't stop before you shot. The lack of control of the Vandal resulted in some of your shots way up here, and before you know it, you're dead. Sometimes this makes me wonder, are you guys even watching the guides or any guides on YouTube, because basic fundamentals like this have been covered by almost everyone. You've got yourself an Odin, and honestly with the way you're aiming, this might be better. 13 seconds have gone by and you decide to help out your teammate with a mosh pit, which I'd rather you save for when they push, as the deadlock already has a wall there, so you throw in the mosh pit doesn't really do much. I'd rather you save it for sight, so when they push you, you can do this either by stalling the push or separating and isolating 1v1s. However, for whatever reason, you turn your back to the whole of main, oblivious to the potential danger. And at this point, I have no idea what you're doing. I cannot logically break down your thought process. It just doesn't make sense. It's like having two controllers, one of them broken, and you end up using the broken controller. Honestly, this is a poor use of the flash, and I'll tell you why. Judging by the way you threw the dizzy was to gain info in A main, but you end up revealing your position, losing your flash and not blinding anyone. With Gekko's flash, either you set yourself up or your teammate. For example, when they do push, you can flash high, making it hard for them to shoot the flash while pushing sight. So keep that in mind. At this point, you're asking to be killed. You hear multiple enemies storming A site with a neon wall blocking your vision. To make matters worse, you remain in the same position, exposing yourself to these two areas. The moment you see that wall, you look at your utility, and from there you'll notice you have just a wingman, which you throw out and immediately reposition to where you can isolate angles, as opposed to staying here and not knowing which side the neon is going to come from. Recently started a new channel dedicated for highlights, and if that's something you're interested in, go show some love and maybe be the first subscriber. Hope you all enjoyed this VOD review, and as always, until next time.